We're going to pick up our discussion of verbs with this lesson, and in this lesson we're going to talk about the irregular verbs. These are the verbs that give people the most trouble. An irregular verb forms its past tense in a different way. If you remember, in our discussion last time, we had the verb walk. When we wanted to make past tense, all we did was add ed. When we wanted to do past participle, we did have or had. But this verb stayed the same. It was still walked. Now we'll take a look at what happens with an irregular verb. An irregular verb changes forms in the past tense. So our regular verbs here, we added ed, jumped, played. Irregular verbs change their form in the past tense. Sing, sang. Swim, swam. Most of them that change forms we know by sound, although there are a few that cause problems. So we're going to spend most of this lesson talking about the troublesome verbs lay, lie, sit, set, raise, and rise. So let's talk about lay. Lay means to put or to place. Now, whenever you're doing verb conjugations, you want to start out with the present part, the infinitive form. So take the word to, put it in front of your verb. To lay. Lay is one of those verbs that must have an object to complete the action. So I lay the baby in the crib. Lay is your verb. I is your subject. What word receives the action of that verb? Who am I laying in the bed? The baby. So if you have an action, this verb needs something to complete the action, you're going to use lay. That's called an object. So let's take a look at the forms of lay. The present tense is to lay. So I lay the baby in the crib. Present tense. Baby is going to be my object. Now, let's say I did it yesterday. So I'm not going to use lay. I'm going to change this to laid. Yesterday, I laid the baby in the crib. Well, let's say I have been doing this all week. I want a participle, have laid. I have laid the baby in the crib all week. Now I'm going to talk a minute about the gerund. A gerund is when you add an ing to a word and it changes its form. So I could say laying the baby in the crib is my job. So I still got the laying and baby, and I've got the object. So that's basically the forms of lay. Lie means to rest or recline. Does not need an object, never has an object. So let's take a look at the forms of this verb. To lie. So I could say, I want to lie down. No object here. I wouldn't say I want to lay down because there's no object. I want to lie down. I want to rest. I want to recline. All right, now what gets a little bit confusing here is the past tense of lie is lay. Yesterday I lay down for 3 hours. This word, I'm not making it up. Let's say we're going to use the past participle. I have lain in bed all week. Again, no objects. So let's do some practice. I want to lay down or I want to lie down. I is my subject. Want is my verb. I don't have an object down there. So I have to use lie. Now look at the next one. Please lay or lie the keys on the table. Well, here's my object. What are you going to lay down or lie down? The keys. I've got an object. I can't use lay. I have to use lay. Please lay the keys on the table. The keys are taking the action. Yesterday, I spent yesterday. Were you laying by the pool? No. Laying means there's no action there. I is my subject. Spent is my verb. What was I doing? I was resting. I was reclining by the pool. Now let's talk some more about this. The clothes were laying on the floor or lying on the floor. Well, nobody put them there. They're just resting there. They're sitting there, lying. But if I did take them, I of my subject, and clothes is my object. So what did I do with them? I laid them. That would work there because that's my object. Now, I have laid in bed all week or I have lain in bed all week. Well, there's no object. So I have lain in bed all week. Next we have sit or set. These two verbs work about the same as lay and lie. One receives an object, needs an object, and one doesn't. The word sit does not need an object. I want to sit down. He will sit on the beach all season. Today I sit, yesterday I sat. I have sat. No object. Set needs an object to complete the action. I will set the table. What am I going to set? Table. That's my object. Please set the money on the table. What are you going to set? Money. All right, so today I set the table. Yesterday I set the table. I have set the table all week. Raise and rise, again, works the same way. Raise takes an object. It needs an object to receive the action of the verb. Rise does not need an object. So today I raised the flag. Yesterday I raised the flag. I have raised the flag all week. In that case, it does have an object, which would be flag. Now, rise, rose, has risen happens without anybody doing it. All right? The sun rises. Today the sun will rise. Tomorrow it rose. Yesterday the sun rose. It has risen all week. No object. So here's an example. The grocer has raised the price of tomatoes. Subject is grocer. Verb is raised. What did he raise? Price. It's got that object. I will raise the flag. What am I going to raise? I'm going to raise a flag. Can we raise money for the trip? What are we going to raise? We're going to raise money. All of those are objects. So we're going to use raise and not rise. Take a look at risen. The price of gas has risen this year. Price is my subject, has risen. It does it by itself. Nobody is making it happen. Please let the bread rise before you cook it. It's going to rise. No one's going to make it go up. I want to rise before the sun. No object. All right, I hope that helped. Verbs are not really that complicated. If you're a second language person, that might be a little bit confusing at first. And always feel free to look in a dictionary or in a handbook and see how these verbs are conjugated. Thank you.